I'm attempting a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl using only flying types. While there are a dozen available encounters in Staraptor, Gyarados, Crobat, Mothim, Vespiquen, Drifblim, Honchkrow, Chatot, Noctowl, Beautifly, Pelipper, and Mantine, there's a giant obstacle that's prevented anybody from attempting to complete this challenge: Roark. With 3 Rock-type Pokemon on his team and only 2 encounters available before him, it's a near impossible task. But I have a habit of breaking through impossible tasks with the stupidest amount of luck imaginable. So join me as we get one step closer to completing every single monotype hardcore Nuzlocke of every mainline Pokemon game on YouTube, which, if you're interested in the other over 250 videos that comprise this spreadsheet once you're done with this one, feel free to check it out in the description below, as well as the rules for the challenge if you're unfamiliar. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel since we're less than 5,000 away from hitting 200,000 subscribers, and comment down below what other monotype runs that aren't completed yet that you want to see me tackle next. Or heck, even potentially make a video on every run that's completely impossible on this sheet. But before we get into the game, I just want to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, Marvel Strike Force. Have you ever dreamed of playing a Marvel game that lets you take control of your favorite heroes and villains and pit them against each other in epic battles? Well, guess what? That game already exists, and it's called Marvel Strike Force. Marvel Strike Force is not just a game, it's an experience like no other. The gameplay seamlessly blends turn-based strategy with real-time combat, making it easy to pick up and play. But what truly sets it apart are the features that make it a dream come true for Marvel enthusiasts like myself, and potentially you. As someone who grew up playing the Ultimate Alliance games, I am in love with a lot of these characters, and being able to assemble a team with Spider-Man, Iron Man, Black Widow, Loki, and many others, Marvel Strike Force allows you to do that. You can also collect, upgrade, and battle alongside these iconic characters, creating your own dream team. Marvel Strike Force also brings you engaging campaigns and regular events, dive into rich storylines, battle across iconic Marvel locations, and face off against legendary foes. The game evolves regularly, offering new ways to battle with your roster, including Alliance War, raids, and the Cosmic Crucible tournament. And the excitement doesn't stop there. The ability to unlock new characters adds an element of surprise and keeps you motivated to explore the Marvel Universe. Power up your characters to take on game modes like Campaigns, Arena, and Blitz. So what are you waiting for? Install Marvel Strike Force today and immerse yourself in the Marvel Universe like never before. But that's not all. For a limited time this month, use the QR code or click the link in the description to unlock exclusive characters for free by logging in. Right now, you can celebrate the release of Marvel Studios' The Marvels by unlocking Captain Marvel or Miles Morales for free until the end of the month. Plus, you can use the promo code CARDS in all caps until the end of the month to unlock Gambit, 500 Power Cores, and 5 Premium Orbs for free. Just click the link in the description or scan that QR code and you won't regret it. So starting out here, of course none of our starter choices are flying types, but I do end up going with Piplup just as a potential HM user, seeing as we've got a lot of them in Gen 4 and I'm gonna need something other than a Bibarel to contain all of those water HMs. With that, I'm able to head off into Route 201 to find my first actual encounter of the game, a Starly. Unfortunately, there's a few things messing me up with this one. As I'm starting with a level 2, and that makes the beginning grind up to a usable level a pretty big slog, not to mention being saddled with a nature that increases speed at the cost of attack, and with an IV of 4 in attack, so I'm gonna have a pretty tough time. But having a high speed and eventually the ability to hit hard with the likes of Stab Brave Bird, Close Combat, U-Turn, and Stab Return, we should be in a good spot nonetheless. I'll be EV training Starly in attack and speed, of course, with our second encounter being available on Route 218 in Magikarp. While I won't be able to use it until just before Gardenia, I can at least switch train it, all while not using any attacks in battle to keep with our rule set for the challenge. Thankfully though, there is a second usable encounter before Roark, that being Zubat. Not the most useful just yet, but Supersonic could be potentially viable to stave off a nearly inevitable wipe to Roark. This one will also be EV trained in attack and speed, seeing as Crobat finally has great physical moves to take advantage of in this generation, like X-Scissor, Fly, Poison Fang, and a few others. Once everyone's up to around level 13 or so, it's time for our second rival battle against Barry. Technically first with our encounters, but the actual first is forced upon you without being able to get another Pokemon other than your starter. He leads with Starly, I lead Zubat as Bite gets a clean one-shot, leaving just Turtwig to be obliterated by 3 super effective Leech Lives to KO and win me the fight. That's it for required fights before Roark though, so I can easily burn through the rest of my available EXP on EV training, evolving Starly into Staravia at level 14 and giving me my one saving grace of the run, Double Team. This is the only attack that will physically be able to get me through Roark. I have to evade a ton of rock throws, which are thankfully inaccurate normally, so I shouldn't have too much of a problem, especially when Roark's lead Geodude goes for Stealth Rock on turn 1, giving me an additional turn to get up a second double team before we start rolling the dice. Intimidate also helps here as it makes sure Staravia can survive 2 rock throws from either Geodude or Onix instead of just 1. And that's great news for me as Geodude manages to get a rock throw through my evasive tactics after the 4th double team, but thankfully doesn't manage to get any more through as I get up to +6, beginning my spam of Wing Attack. I do not have a single other move that does good damage here because the only TM that I could get is Hidden Power, and Staravia's special attack is not good, so Wing Attack it is. The potions here really do make it a doozy though, as I have to continually dodge attacks while hopefully sneaking in a few crits here and there to ensure a quicker victory and less dice rolls, which I do end up getting a critical hit on Geodude following the first of 2 potions, bringing him down to the low red as another Wing Attack connects to KO, all with Staravia remaining at over half HP. Second up is Onix, and I'm not really worried about this one. His attack stat is pretty pitiful, though with Screech connecting that does make me pretty worried if anything does connect. Thankfully it doesn't, as Onix gets brought to low yellow HP as the second potion is used, but a second Screech manages to connect as I bring him back down to half HP, getting one more critical hit in there as my 20th use of Wing Attack this battle brings him down, leaving just Cranidos. One hit connecting here means death for Staravia considering we're at -4 defense, but I'm just clicking the button anyway and hoping for the best. We do a quarter with the first Wing Attack as Leer misses, great start if he's prioritizing Leer, since that means we're not at risk of getting hit. But as the second Wing Attack brings him to half, we see Pursuit, thankfully missing. All we have to do is survive one more turn as we outspeed and hit Wing Attack, bringing Cranidos into the red all while Headbutt thankfully misses once more, allowing Staravia to hit one more Wing Attack to seal the win on my first attempt. I told you my luck was insane. I figured I would have to try this at least 10 times before this happened, but I guess this is my trade-off. I get really good luck in Pokemon games, but then in a game like Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, I brick every third game despite them being mathematical anomalies. With our biggest hurdle out of the way though, everything else aside from Volkner should still be challenging, but not a literal dice roll as to whether or not I get through it. So after finishing my EV training with Staravia, Magikarp, and Zubat, I'm ready to head north through the Team Galactic runs and into Floaroma Town, where encounters start opening up for us. Firstly, in Floaroma Meadows, after clearing the Team Galactic runts out, I'm able to lather some honey on the tree here, encountering a female Combi. This, thankfully, can evolve into Vespiquen at level 21, giving me yet another great encounter for Gardenia and beyond, getting EV trained in defense and special defense as I plan on using this as like a defend heal order and toxic staller, something the rest of the team can't really do effectively. Unfortunately, I don't have enough optional trainers though to bring Magikarp up to level 20 to evolve in preparation for Mars, but considering I do have Combi as a new Pokemon that is flying type, and can now be EV trained, I figure with my fully EV trained Magikarp that I can use it as an EXP sink by switch training it, allowing Combi to get maxed out in defense, all while evolving Magikarp into Gyarados at level 20. Now, full disclosure, I can also technically EV train special defense on Burmy thanks to the honey trees, albeit only using the Floaroma Meadows tree so that I don't accidentally eat my Valley Windworks encounter on Burmy instead of Drifloon, which would take forever. So instead, I decided to use the handy-dandy Metal Kid calculator for EXP distribution, brought out some other calculators, and did the math to see how much EXP both Magikarp and Combi would gain if I theoretically knocked out 252 of them for those special defense EVs, then just added those in through PK Hex. Would this theoretically take weeks to do? Yes. Do I have weeks to make this video? Absolutely not. So we're expediting the process in a way that doesn't harm the actual challenge. If you don't like it, I don't know, shoot me. The bullets make me run faster! With the team prepped, it's an easy fight against Mars as her Zubat falls to mine in the mirror with a single Wing Attack, leaving just Purugly. I decide to stay in and go for Wing Attack once again, taking a scratch that does over half damage, all while doing around the same to Purugly, triggering the Citrus Berry to restore 25% of her HP. From here, I can just swap into Staravia for the Intimidate drop, taking a scratch in the process, all while going for Wing Attack next turn, taking a second for another 9 damage, and letting me clean up the KO with a Quick Attack to end the fight. Huh. I guess I didn't need Gyarados for that one. Better safe than sorry, I guess. But with her gone, that opens up the encounters for both a male Burmy on Route 205, though I can't use it until it evolves into Mothim at level 20, as well as Drifloon outside of the Valley Windworks on a Friday. It unfortunately appears at level 22, and therefore doesn't really have the room to get EV trained just yet, though I should be able to keep it benched until after Gardenia so that I can effectively do so later. I'll be EV training both of these in special attack and speed, as Mothim gets access to moves like Silver Wind, Air Slash, and Psychic, while also somehow rolling into a hidden power Electric as well upon checking, and Drifloon as well gets really good special attacks like Psychic, Shadow Ball, Ominous Wind, and Thunderbolt, so both of which are going to be really good in that special department. One trek through Route 205 in the Eterna Forest later though, and I've arrived in Eterna City, ready for another gym battle, as Gardenia's probably the most free victory of the run, due to our type advantage. She leads with Cherubi, I lead with my newly evolved Golbat, hitting Wing Attack on Cherubi, Turtwig, and Roserade in sequence to one-shot all 3 of them to win the fight instantly, hitting level 23 and evolving into Crobat in the process. Gotta love EV training Pokemon right at the beginning, all of that running around looking for potential encounters to be as optimal as possible, basically looking for the lowest level ones to burn as little EXP as possible, maxes out the friendship stat pretty much instantly, and that's super helpful in order to have such a powerful Pokemon this early on. With the Forest Badge in tow, I figured I may as well grab my encounters that are around this area before progressing further, with 3 of them being right next to each other. First up, Eterna Forest during the night has Murkrow, which is the reason I'm playing Diamond as opposed to Pearl, as Misdreavus is here instead in that version, and it isn't a flying type, so it seems pretty cut and dry. Not to mention, we're not missing out on any flying type version exclusives in Pearl, so I'm pretty happy about it, especially when I can EV train Murkrow in special attack and speed when it gets access to Nasty Plot. Though we're going to be waiting a while to get a hold of a Duskstone to fully take advantage of this Pokemon. Secondly, we can also get yet another encounter in Eterna City, by trading a Buizel from either Route 205 or the Valley Windworks, which somehow the one I caught was holding a Wakenberry when I captured it. Not very useful without a Pokemon weak to Water-type moves, but getting a 5% item on a first capture is that luck coming in again, even if it doesn't matter. However, with this, I can go ahead and grab myself Chatot, getting one of the best special flying moves in Chatter, so I'll be EV training this in special attack and speed. Lastly, over on Route 211, I can grab Hoot Hoot, which, honestly, I don't see myself using. We just have better quality normal subtypes with Staraptor for physical attacks and Chatot for special, so this will likely be a last-ditch effort if we start suffering losses and incur the snowball effect. But with a full team in hand, we're safe to go into the Eterna Galactic HQ, clear out the grunts, and challenge Jupiter. She leads Zubat, I lead Chatot, and obliterate it with a single Chatter, leaving just Skuntank. I outspeed once again and hit a Chatter for nearly half, but with Smokescreen coming down, of course I end up missing immediately, being hit with Screech on the follow-up. From here, I just have to swap so that Night Slash doesn't dumpster Chatot immediately, so I go into Gyarados for both the Intimidate drop and to hopefully bypass the Citrus Berry to KO from this point, taking a Poison Gas in the process. Not a problem though, as Dragon Rage is perfect for this situation, taking out the remaining HP to KO and win the fight. Perfect! And now that I can access the gate towards Route 206, I can grab the EXP share and dump that right onto my HM Bidoof so that I can fight all of the optional trainers for their money and not be worried about overleveling whatsoever. While this might seem like a completely unnecessary risk, even against the likes of trainers with electric and rock types though, I just don't feel like they're any match for me at this point thanks to all the coverage moves I've accessed at this point. With that, it's a bit of a walk, but heading on through Route 206, Wayward Cave, Route 207, a bit of Mount Coronet, and Route 211 finally gets us to Hearthome City. And while I can't fight Fantina yet, since this isn't Platinum, we do have another fight against Barry at this point, though it's not that much of a big deal. He leads with Starly, I go with Crobat, being hit with a quick attack before nailing the one-shot with Wing Attack, leading to Buizel, who also goes down to a single Wing Attack. Ponyta almost falls to the same fate, surviving on literally 1 HP before hitting a Stomp for a few points of damage, but it doesn't matter as a second Wing Attack finishes it off, leaving just Grotle to fall to Wing Attack just as well, giving me the win. Like I said, not a big deal. It's another big hike through Route 209, the Lost Tower for the Strength HM, Salacion Town in the Ruins, Route 210 and 215, and that finally spits us out at our next destination, Veilstone City. However, since the level cap for both Maylene and Crasher Wake is the same, I figure I may as well clear out routes 214, 213, and 212, may as well grab that extra money. Though I did make sure to grab Wingull on Route 213, while also making a stop in Veilstone afterwards for the TMs available here, as there's a ton of good stuff from the game corner like Return, Psychic, Thunderbolt, and a few other things, as well as the department store, giving me plenty of additional tools to take care of any Pokemon thrown at me. But also, holy crap, I never realized this until this run, but they really made a rub and tug massage parlor joke in this game. This girl offers your Pokemon a massage, and if you say no, she tells you she swears she's not doing anything shady. Kinda messed up, both for being in a children's game, and because it's in the context of this world's form of animals. Seriously, what the f***? Anyway, with these TMs and my team at level 29, I'm ready for the doubleheader of Maylene and Crasher Wake. Maylene's the easier target to finish off first at a lower level thanks to my type advantage, especially with the power of my newly evolved Drifblim being immune to her primary type. Gust is actually powerful enough to KO her lead Meditite after a turn of Detect, leading to Machoke, who goes down to Psychic, leaving just Lucario. Thanks to that Steel typing though, Psychic is neutral and only does around half damage, all while Metal Claw connects for around a third, letting me safely hit a second one, only to miss the range for the KO and trigger her Citrus Berry, allowing for a second Metal Claw to not only connect, but raise Lucario's attack stat to ensure the KO next turn. Thankfully we do outspeed though, and it's likely she heals this turn, so I'm fine going for another attack before swapping, but apparently she was just out of healing range here as Psychic picks up the KO for a clean solo sweep, no setup required. After handling some Galactic grunts and getting the HM for Fly though, I'm ready for Crasher Wake. The TM for Thunderbolt given to Drifblim helps immensely, once again because it blasts through Wake's lead Gyarados just like we did with the lead Meditite for the last fight. Floatzel is out second, which is odd, but only on the surface, as his third Pokemon Quagsire has not a single move that does anything to Drifblim. Thankfully, following an Ice Fang for over half damage, a single Thunderbolt takes out Floatzel, leaving Quagsire as easy pickings with Psychic. Doing over half on the first usage and only seeing Tail Whip as the second KOs the derpy friendo to win the fight. You know, the more I see Quagsire, the more I find it moving up the rankings of my favorite Pokemon. He just looks both like a friend and as a strong enough Pokemon to keep up with a good chunk of them in battle, even if that isn't quite true. With 4 badges in hand, I can't quite leave Pastoria City without any meaningful progress if I don't take on Barry first. However, considering he's still leading with a level 26 Starly, I think you can come to a conclusion on how easy this fight is. Drifblim one-shots it with Thunderbolt as well as Weasel, then Grottle with Gust, and finally Ponyta with Psychic to dispatch him out of my way. With that, there's just one Galactic run and a trek through the foggy Route 210 in order to get to Celestic Town, obtaining the HM for Surf, not battle Cyrus, which is odd that they didn't do that here and only realized it was a mistake and fixed it in Platinum, leaving me to fly back to Hearthome City for the fight against Fantina. With her cap of level 36 though, I'm easily able to evolve Staravia into Staraptor, though I don't think I'm going to need it with my plentiful access to Dark and Ghost moves, though it may be a nice pivot for a normal type into any Ghost moves here. We both lead with Drifblim as I attempt to one-shot it with Ominous Wind, barely missing it as she sets up a Minimize, but this does bring her into healing range, so I'm free to blast out a Thunderbolt next turn, doing more damage and getting the KO from full as Miss Magius enters second, outspeeding and hitting Confuse Ray as Drifblim recovers instantly thanks to a held Person Berry, delivering an Ominous Wind for well over half, and eating up the Citrus Berry by proxy. However, thanks to Unburden triggering upon Drifblim's consumption of the Person Berry, we now outspeed Miss Magius and can deliver the second Ominous Wind to KO, leaving just Gengar to be outsped and blasted with a Thunderbolt and Psychic combo, breaking through Confuse Ray for the turn to KO and win the fight without taking a lick of damage whatsoever. 5 down, 3 to go. There's basically no gap between Gyms 5 and 6, with the exception of a single route and Berry fight, which thankfully is a little more difficult in comparison to the last few battles, as he's finally evolved his Pokemon, though I do make sure to take on a few of the optional surfing routes beforehand, just to get the extra money, the TM for X-Scissor near the Pal Park, and of course the extra experience. First up is Staravia, and I lead with Drifblim, going straight for the Thunderbolt one-shot as Buizel comes out second. Well, he didn't evolve all of his Pokemon, probably should have, as Thunderbolt once again one-shots here with ease, leading to Grottle. I no longer have access to Gust, so I'm using Psychic here to do a little over half. Seen Curse set up, but since that doesn't increase special defense, a second Psychic pulls the Tree Hugger down as Heracross enters fourth, once again downed by a one-shot in the form of Psychic. Last out is Ponyta, and despite not one-shotting with Ominous Wind, all he does is go for Tail Whip, giving me yet another unscathed battle upon KOing Ponyta with the second Ominous Wind, and therefore giving me the win. Huh, I guess that was less difficult considering I didn't take a single point of damage for my second important fight in a row. However, Byron will not make it 3 for 3 considering we have our work cut out for us against the likes of his Steel types that have a decent rock coverage. Though not before checking out Iron Island and getting the last bit of optional EXP possible. Byron leads off with Bronzor, and I go with Drifblim, and this is exclusively to see if I can get an Omni boost off of Ominous Wind, seeing as she's learned Baton Pass, and if I could throw that over to like Staraptor in order to spam close combat for the rest of the fight, that would be really swell. However, after outlasting the onslaught of Confuse Ray and Hypnosis, the latter of which healed off by a held Chesto Berry, triggering Drifblim's Unburden at the same time, but since that isn't an actual stat boost, it isn't baton passable, though I do end up getting the KO with a second Ominous Wind that gets a critical hit, leading to Bastiodon. I try using Baton Pass anyway, even though Drifblim is faster. I don't know why, but Drifblim hits itself in Confusion as Ancient Power hits to barely not bring Drifblim into the red, forcing my hand to swap to Gyarados, tanking it by only taking a quarter damage before beginning to dish out Surf. Sure, Gyarados is not a special attacker, but Bastiodon has a weaker special defense than physical defense, and I sure as hell wasn't going to put Aqua Tail on Gyarados due to the 90% accuracy. I've missed enough times with that move in my lifetime to know never to trust it. It does less than half as Flash Cannon connects for minimal damage, with a second making Bastiodon go for Rest to heal, immediately waking up with a Chesto Berry. Continually spamming Surf does end up netting me results though, as the third does about a third of Bastiodon's HP, with the fourth getting a critical hit following an Ancient Power to KO, leaving just Steelix, and thanks to its pitiful special defense, Surf gets the one-shot to KO and win the fight as well as the Mine Badge. It's called that because it's mine now. God, I need better material. With our 6th badge claimed though, it's time for some Galactic beatdown since I've got to take on Saturn and Mars at League's Valor and Verity respectively, though both of them are pretty pitiful at this point. Saturn leads with Kadabra, I go with Drifblim and just blast its life away with Ominous Wind, leading to Bronzor who eats a Thunderbolt for over half as Rock Tomb connects for rather minimal damage despite being super effective. Though I can't say that's surprising since Bronzor is not meant for beatdown. Instead, it gets beat down by a second Thunderbolt, KOing and leaving just Toxicroak to fall to a quad-effective Psychic following a super effective Feint attack that fails to bring Drifblim below half HP, earning me the quick win. Now for Mars, she's starting with Golbat, I start with Staraptor, and I figure Stab Return should do the trick. Though both that Nature and low IV stat and attack are really throwing me for a loop as I can't even get Golbat into the red with a Stab 102 power attack. In turn, it hits Toxic, but goes down to the second return, leading to Bronzor. And at this point, I figure I'm just going to go for U-turn to get out of the way of Toxic, hitting Bronzor for a little under half as I swap into Crobat to take a Gyro Ball. Bite brings Bronzor really low as Confuse Ray lands, and because of that, I may as well go once again for U-turn, thankfully breaking through the confusion as to not hit ourselves as we return into Staraptor in prep for Perugly. Of course, we outspeed and deliver a nasty, super effective close combat to seal the deal, opening up the pathway to Snowpoint City. Oh, and I guess I did forget to clear out Route 211 East and their trainers, so I made sure to do that before clearing out Routes 216 and 217, finally moving into Snowpoint City for the 7th gym battle against Candice. No, I'm not making the joke today. I've gone for plenty enough low-hanging fruit for one video. She leads Snover, I lead Staraptor, and as expected, Aerial Ace cuts right through the grass type like a hot knife through butter, KOing and leading into Sneasel. I figure there's no reason to drop my defense with close combat despite being quite effective, and no reason to swap out with super effective U-turn, so I just opt for the 1 or 2 power Stab Return, which does get the KO regardless and lets Staraptor remain in preparation for a Abomasnow. Here I'm anticipating an Avalanche, so I opt to use U-turn here for a bit over half damage, triggering the held Citrus Berry as I go out into Gyarados for the Intimidate drop, but instead seeing Woodhammer for a little less than half as the recoil damage brings Abomasnow down to just a little over half. I should be able to pick up the KO with return at this point though, but I missed the range by hitting the lowest possible roll. Being hit by an avalanche that's double power thanks to being hit first, bringing Gyarados down to just 11 HP in tandem with the hail, forcing me to swap on a Abomasnow's healing turn into Staraptor, both to get the Intimidate drop again and for a free swap, running in with return which barely misses the KO, and if it weren't for my held Citrus Berry, I likely would have been dead to hail damage following an avalanche. That's not the case though, as a follow-up Aerial Ace rips through the Grassy Titan, leaving just Medicham. Aerial Ace should be more than enough to KO here, especially if she wastes her time with Protect and Hail chip damage. But instead, I'm once again being cucked by the attack-lowering nature and the low attack IV, barely missing the KO as thankfully Medicham has pity on me, going for Bulk Up and giving me the free win following the hail damage to win me the fight. Not the cleanest execution at all, but hey, I will always take a win with no deaths, even if the play wasn't the most skillful thing I've ever performed. But with that, time to let the story drag us by the balls to the end, then one more gym leader before the truly fun part of the run begins. Now I'm quite terrified of Volkner, but I'll talk about our best out to the fight later on once we get there. As for Team Galactic's final stand, it goes pretty smoothly as expected, especially thanks to Gyarados having recently learned Dragon Dance. With that, I'm able to set up 3 of them in the face of Cyrus's lead Murkrow, taking 2 Drill Pecks that do a little under half damage as Return gets the KO, doing the same to Golbat with Ice Fang, and Sneasel once again with Return to finish the fight straight away. Saturn goes similarly, except I get pretty peeved about my controller once again eating an input and having me click Dragon Dance twice in a row, despite seeing Kadabra go for Shockwave for over half on turn 1. Thankfully, the AI has mercy on me and goes for Embargo, allowing Gyarados to fight another day as he takes out Kadabra with Return, Bronzor with 2 of them following a Gyro Ball, and 1 more Return on Toxicroak to clear them out of Veilstone, leaving just Spear Pillar. Firstly, the battle against Mars and Jupiter alongside Barry goes really well thanks to Gyarados being able to just sit there and soak up Dragon Dances, all while Munchlax takes the brunt of the attacks, with Gyarados setting up 4 of them before getting hit with a critical Rock Slide, though I'm still at over half HP. However, since I don't want to have to switch out later, I figure this is a plenty enough good opportunity for me to start targeting Jupiter's side, taking out Bronzor, Golbat, and Skuntank all in one shot each with Return, making this a 2-on-1 scenario from here on out. Confuse Ray finally connects on Gyarados at this point, but thanks to a held Person Berry, I'm able to negate it, KOing Mars's Bronzor with Return, then doing the same to both Purugly and Golbat on the follow-up to end the battle quickly. It is not very often that I'm able to cover double battles in that quick of a fashion, but I will 100% take it. Lastly is Cyrus, whose team isn't too much improved from shortly before, just evolving his Murkrow and Sneasel while adding Gyarados to the team. I lead with my own Gyarados against his Honchkrow, getting off Intimidate and beginning my Dragon Dance setup, all while he goes for Embargo on turn 1, then Dark Pulse. After seeing Drill Peck following the 3rd Dragon Dance though, it's time to get to work in order not to waste this setup time, hitting Return to KO Honchkrow, 2 on Gyarados following the Intimidate, and an Ice Fang that brings me into the red, and thanks to our speed, I'm in no need to switch out here. Instead, just delivering 2 lethal doses of Return to attack both Weavile and Crobat to KO and win the fight single-handedly. If there's one thing I'll say about this version though, it's that I'm glad that I don't have to deal with the Distortion world. It sure does make this part go a lot smoother as the story doesn't completely gobble you up for an hour of your time. Upon clearing out the optional trainers on Route 222 and 223 though, I've got just one more thing to do. Over in the Wayward Cave underneath Cycling Road on Route 206 houses a very important TM, albeit for the one Pokemon I've been regularly using that is quad weak to electric type moves. But thanks to our superior speed and monstrous attack stat, TM26 Earthquake should be more than enough to handle the electric types that Volkner throws out, with Return likely being more than enough to dispatch both his Ambipom and Octillery, since for some reason he has those in this generation. Volkner leads with Raichu, I go with Gyarados, and immediately outspeed, one-shotting it with Earthquake as Ambipom enters second, allowing me to set up a single Dragon Dance as he goes for Agility. At this point, I figure he's gonna outspeed with the +1 advantage, and he does, hitting Shockwave for over half as Return gets the KO, leading to Luxray. I'm pretty sure I need the +1 boost in both attack and speed to ensure I outspeed Luxray, as well as be able to KO it in one shot. But from here, it's a pretty easy hop and skip into a win as Return beats Octillery into healing range, only hitting a Bullet Seed for minimal damage as 2 more returns finishes off the weird Ink Blaster, finally giving me the Beacon Badge and one last necessary badge to enter the Sinnoh League. One victory road later that isn't actually hard thanks to the level cap jumping from 49 to 63 for some reason, and I'm ready for the last half dozen battles of the game. Of course, Barry is waiting to ambush me right in front of the league entrance, though with nearly 10 levels of advantage here, there's no need to really think about this fight. He leads Staraptor, I go with Gyarados, and with a 14 level advantage, there's literally no reason for me not to spam Dragon Dance, setting up 2 of them as I get blasted with Aerial Ace and U-Turn, swapping out for Barry's Heracross as I get my 3rd Dragon Dance set up in the face of Heracross's Night Slash, putting Gyarados to just over half HP. I figure +3 should be good enough to take out a team that's this low of a level in comparison to me, so I just go for Waterfall and Heracross to KO, Ice Fang on Staraptor, Waterfall on Rapidash, Ice Fang on Torterra, Waterfall on Snorlax, and finally Earthquake on Floatzel to KO all 6 team members in one shot each to win the fight. Now then, team prep time. I'm going to be going in with Gyarados as my physical sweeper, Drifblim as my bulky special attacker, Crobat as my other physical attacker to cover the types that Gyarados doesn't hit for in Poison, Flying, and Bug, Vespiquen for a heal, defend order, and toxic staller while also having attack order for additional offensive pressure, Staraptor for additional physical attacks in normal and fighting while also having access to Brave Bird as my most potent flying type offensive option, and finally Honchkrow joins the team as my special sweeper, having access to both Nasty Plot and Roost, as well as the trifecta of Dark Pulse, Shadow Ball, and Psychic, making for a nasty special sweeper. Pun entirely intended. I wish I could justify bringing in any of the other 6 potential party members though, but Pelipper is just a far worse Gyarados, only sharing its typing but none of its useful attributes. Chatot is pretty good at exactly Chatter and Hyper Voice spam, and while they're great moves, Chatot's low base stat total holds it back at this point in the game. Noctowl again is just terrible. I didn't even bother grabbing Mantine since again, Gyarados serves the water subtyping perfectly while fulfilling the physical sweeper role. Mothim just doesn't have enough offensive pressure, and Beautifly, again, I didn't even bother grabbing since it just serves the same role as Mothim, while also being good at potentially throwing out status effects, but I think Vespiquen can do that well enough. With that though, we have 6 unique subtypings in Water, Ghost, Poison, Bug, Normal, and Dark, and I couldn't be happier. Let's do it. Aaron's first up, leading Dustox as I go with Staraptor, throwing out Brave Bird on turn 1 for the first KO, leading to Drapion. Of course, I'm U-turning right out for Gyarados, both for the Intimidate and for the super effective Earthquake, barely taking any damage from Aerial Ace in the process as Vespiquen enters 3rd. I did replace the 95% accurate Ice Fang for the 100% accurate Avalanche here, despite the negative priority and anti-synergy with Dragon Dance, purely because I don't want the 5% risk of not hitting Ice Fang against the likes of Cynthia's Garchomp later, but it's still good enough here, doing a little under half as Defend Order is used, letting me set up 1 Dragon Dance before Power Gem hits twice, and getting Gyarados into the red as Avalanche finishes off the Bug, leading to Heracross. I have a feeling that Stone Edge is coming, so I opt to swap into Crobat, taking over half from it, but being able to use Fly to dodge the next attack and Night Slash, KOing next turn with Quad Weakness and leaving only Beautifly. Obviously, Fly is still good enough at this point, dodging Bug Buzz to KO and win the first of the 5 League battles. We all knew Aaron was going to be a gimme, but I'm not so sure about Bertha. But it could just be the Roark fight telling me that rock types are still scary even though they're not. She leads off with Quagsire as I go with Gyarados, getting both Intimidate and a turn 1 Dragon Dance in the face of Protect, but with her beginning to go for Double Team, I'm sure I'm going to have a hard time getting through that while doing my setup. We continue to go setup for setup until she decides to use Sandstorm, doing residual damage to Gyarados until I have all 6 Dragon Dances set up, then going for Earthquake, not missing 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but after a second Sandstorm, I'm finally able to connect with a Waterfall after also multiple attempts of using that and Avalanche to KO this thing, and it's able to get me to around half HP thanks to just Sandstorm Chip. Second out is Sudowoodo, and seeing as this is the only Pokemon she has with priority on her team, I just decide to stay in and absorb Sucker Punch, going down to 67 HP but cleaning house with Waterfall on it to KO as well as Golem, leading to Whiscash, who falls to the same fate, leaving just Hippowdon, who, you guessed it, dies to +6 stab Waterfall immediately to win the fight. Third up, Flint, as once again we lead Gyarados, this time against Rapidash, setting up 2 Dragon Dances in the face of a charge turn for Solar Beam and the Solar Beam itself, setting up a third as Sunny Day is finally used. I managed to get off a 4th as a second Solar Beam comes down, bringing Gyarados to just over half HP, and to the point where I feel as though I need to start attacking. +4 should be plenty enough for this team anyway, as Earthquake manages to KO Rapidash, leading to Infernape, who too goes down to Earthquake. Third out is Steelix, so obviously I shift over to Waterfall, getting the KO even in the sun due to the stab's super effective power behind it, leading to Lopunny, who too goes down to Waterfall after the sun dissipates. This leaves just Drifblim to go down to Waterfall, doing a quarter to Gyarados' HP as damage thanks to Aftermath, but who cares since that's the last Pokemon and I survive it, winning the fight with Gyarados single-handedly yet again. Alright, I'm sure you get it. Gyarados is overpowered as all hell once the physical special split is introduced here in Gen 4, so let's shift things around by finally using Honchkrow against Lucian and his team of Psychics. He leads off with Mr. Mime and I immediately fire off Nasty Plot, taking a Thunderbolt for around 75% before firing off Dark Pulse next turn for the KO, leading to Medicham. I go for Roost expecting an Ice Punch here so that we can get the neutrality on it, and I'm correct, slowly gaining back Honchkrow's HP as Fire Punch for some reason is used next turn instead. This allows me to get back to over half HP as a single Dark Pulse takes out Medicham, leading to Alakazam. I figured it would be a clean sweep from here, but I failed to take into account that Alakazam actually has a base 120 speed. Honestly, I had no idea it was that high. I thought it was maybe like 90, but that's not the most important part. What the most important part of this whole thing is that Alakazam connects with Focus Blast, KOing Honchkrow right off the bat before I can do anything else. Well, at least you KO'd 2 Pokemon, you did something in this run. And, unfortunately, my Deathless attempt is done for, but I can still try to finish this out with 5 Pokemon on my team. From here, I go into my uber-fast Crobat and nail Alakazam with an X-Scissor to KO, leading to Girafarig, who I do the same process to, KOing and leaving just Bronzong. That Steel typing really dampers my plays here, with X-Scissor only doing a quarter as Bronzong goes for Calm Mind, which is a little scary, then Gyro Ball as I swap into Gyarados for the resistance. It looks like Waterfall is doing just around half damage here, so of course, after hitting 2 more through a Citrus Berry think it would KO, it does not. We barely miss it as Bronzong is healed by a full restore, though I decided to go for Dragon Dance during that turn in order to ensure that the 2-shot KO happens from here, taking a Psychic for 75% before dishing out the killing blow, taking out Bronzong, and leaving just one more fight between me and victory. Even though I'm working with a deficit, and of course my Deathless run is ruined by the penultimate fight, I think I still have really good odds of coming out on top, but let's see if that's true against Cynthia. She leads with Spiritomb, I lead with Vespiquen, and I'm immediately going for Toxic as she goes for Silverwind. Despite my resistance, she's basically fiending for an Omni Boost, though she doesn't get any within 3 turns as I begin setting up Defend Order, letting Toxic get her down to red HP after 5 turns and forcing the first full restore, letting me get Toxic up once again on that turn before taking Psychic and continuing my Defend Orders. Another Psychic connects as my 6th and final Defend Order is used, but now that Vespiquen's at half HP, I may as well top off with Heal Order, delivering the KO with an Attack Order to put us at an even 5 versus 5. I'm hoping Vespiquen can trade for at least around half the team, with her follow-up Milotic getting hit with Toxic as she continually goes for Mirror Coat. I am not going for Attack Order while it's doing this, so I'm just clicking buttons until it keeps draining its HP, and eventually Milotic does get low enough for the additional damage of Attack Order to stack on top of Toxic to take it out, giving me an early lead. Third out is Gastrodon, so of course we're back to Toxic on turn 1 of this being out before taking Stone Edge, immediately KOing Vespiquen due to its high critical hit ratio. Well then, I guess we're back at parity. At least Gastrodon's poisoned though. From here I go into Gyarados for Intimidate, then immediately into Staraptor for a second Intimidate, but Sludge Bomb hits for a little under half as I go back for Gyarados for the third, setting up a Dragon Dance before Sludge Bomb connects and poisons Gyarados. Well, that's another ticking time bomb of a death if I've ever seen one, so I go for Earthquake at +1 to Gastrodon in order to take it out, at least putting me back in the driver's seat as Garchomp enters next. Of course, though, I completely blanked at this time that Avalanche had a negative priority, going for it as Garchomp for some inexplicable reason goes for Brick Break, getting a crit that leaves Gyarados at just 8 HP, but managing to squeeze out one more KO before biting the dust to poison. But at this point, we're basically home free. All she has is Lucario and Roserade, and I have a Staraptor with close combat that has Lucario's name on it, one-shotting it immediately as Roserade comes in last, being obliterated by a single Brave Bird and leaving Staraptor alive at around a third after recoil damage to win the fight, the title of champion, and officially completing our Nuzlocke of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl using only flying types. Whew, that was a little hectic at the end there. Probably should have double-checked Alakazam's base speed compared to Honchkrow's. Maybe then I could have predicted the Focus Blast by swapping to Crobat and finishing the battle out that way, similarly how it played out to what actually happened. And I can't complain. This was a pretty fun challenge, and it was very nice to be able to use some Pokemon that I don't get the chance to use often, like Mothim, Vespiquen, Chatot, and to a much lesser extent, Honchkrow. But with all that said, if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe since we're so close to 200,000, like the video, and comment down below what you guys want to see next. The suggestions always help fuel the channel. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.